Now, I don't follow anybody or anything blindly, whether it's modern medicine or traditional home remedies. Pharmaceutical companies such as Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and a host of others have settled lawsuits due to marketing products that have been detrimental to people's health.
Another one of Pfizer's billion-dollar drugs was finally pulled from the market. Being that smoking is a significant cause of cancer, the smoking cessation drug from Pfizer, called Chantix, was a massive hit. Take Chantix to help you to quit smoking so that you can reduce your risk of cancer. But Chantix was pulled from the market this week because it, you guessed it, increases your risk of cancer. This is poetry. You just can't make this stuff up. But this isn't just Pfizer. This is an industry-wide system of corruption by drug companies. A report from the International Journal of Health Services found that in a recent 17-year time span in the United States, unsafe drugs were prescribed more than 100 million times before being recalled. This is just the stuff that they caught 100 million times before the drugs are recalled. The EJS Center for Ethics at Harvard University states that properly prescribed drugs cause nearly 2 million hospitalizations every year. And another 840,000 hospitalized patients are given inappropriate medications that cause serious adverse reactions, for a total of nearly 3 million serious adverse drug reactions every year. Every year. The Harvard researchers reported that approximately 200,000 of Americans die every year at the hands of pharmaceutical companies.
And just as these companies can get the smoke, individuals like Dr. Sebi and their medical practices must be questioned as well. So, shout out to Pocket Watching with JT for at the very least, bringing some dialogue to the Dr. Sebi situation. If nothing else, the snippets that he's posted and some of the backlash he's received is a constant reminder to never, ever, Shambo, ever follow anybody online dogmatically. The following article comes courtesy of Kenyon Farrow, a writer for The Body Pro, an HIV and AIDS resource site. There's been a lot of internet chatter about a person known as Dr. Sebi, who claimed to have the cure for HIV, herpes, and a number of other conditions. He died in 2016 and certainly had no known cure for HIV or anything else. Sebi's name surfaced in the wake of the online chatter and violent and tragic murder of Nipsey Hussle, the 33-year-old Los Angeles-based hip-hop artist and entrepreneur who was tragically shot to death in Los Angeles on Sunday afternoon, March 31st. Hussle seemed to have been interested in the life and teachings of Alfredo Darrington Bowman, also known as Dr. Sebi, a Honduran herbalist who claimed to have cures for HIV, herpes, and many other conditions.
You want to do a documentary about Dr. Sebi?
And I could show you an example of him going to trial and proving in a court to a jury that he cured AIDS.
I won the case. I proved that I cured AIDS. I won the case. I proved that I cured AIDS.
Sebi, at various points, lived in New York and was essentially barred from operating in New York State in the late 1980s for making false claims about his various products. And Los Angeles, where he convinced celebrities, including Michael Jackson, whom he later sued for $380,000, that he had various cures and treatments. And this right here is for all the conspiracy theorists out there. Alright? It is important to note that in 2013, 85% of all deaths due to the flu or pneumonia in the US were among people over the age of 65. And Sebi was 82. So there's that. Nipsey Hussle was a celebrity who was taken in by Sebi's promises. On the song Blue Laces 2, Hussle spits the lyrics. They killed Dr. Sebi. He was teaching health.
They killed Dr. Sebi, he was teaching health. Uncle Rick Ross, cause he teaching wealth.
And he told the Breakfast Club last year that he was working on a documentary about Sebi. Quote unquote, he says, Dr. Sebi went to trial in New York because he put in the newspaper that he cured AIDS. Hussle said in the interview, he beat the case. Then he went to federal court the next day and he beat that case, but nobody talks about it. Sebi and his company were in fact brought to trial by New York City in 1988 and were found not guilty of quote-unquote practicing medicine without a license by a jury. But according to the New York Amsterdam News report, he was only found not guilty on the 2 counts because the state did not prove that he in fact had attempted to diagnose people's health conditions, which was key in breaking the law.
With my 13 AIDS patient, she said, they're gonna get you.
In the 1980s, Dr. Sebi ran a variety of ads stating that his institute cured AIDS, sickle cell, lupus, blindness, herpes, cancer, and other incurable diseases. The ad caught the eye of the Food and Drug Administration, and they sued Dr. Sebi for false advertisement and practicing without a license.
The ad caught the eye of the Food and Drug Administration, and they sued Dr. Sebi for false advertisement and practicing without a license. They sued Dr. Sebi for false advertisement and practicing without a license.
You defended yourself. Of course I did. I knew that I had sufficient evidence to prove my position.
During the trial, the judge requested Dr. Sebi provide 1 witness for each disease that he claimed he cured. Each witness had to bring documentation that showed they had a disease from one doctor and documentation that they no longer had the disease from a separate doctor. Dr. Sebi was able to provide over 70 witnesses. He was not taken to court to prove he cured AIDS, but many say he still did so within this trial because his witnesses presented verified medical documents proving they had been healed after they said they sought Sebi's help. After hours of questioning and testing Dr. Sebi's compounds, he was found not guilty because his products were essentially food and he was not diagnosing patients. Dr. Sebi took on the Attorney General and won.
Not only did I prove scientifically, but I had the diagnostic sheets, and I do have them today. And those diagnostic sheets didn't come from me. They came from their school, their American medical accredited school.
When you look at the court documents, it says Dr. Sebi, Alfredo Bowman, which is my father, my aunt Bowman, and Fig Tree Products. That's what was proven in court. You know what I mean? That's what won court. They sent that to Lancaster Laboratories, and it was proven as electric cell food. That's why if you look at the Fig Tree, we call it electric cell food. That's what's been proven in court.
He did not go to trial in federal court. He was taken to court by New York State in 1988 and avoided having to admit guilt by entering into a consent decree in which he agreed to not sell any products in the state making claims to cure diseases. He also agreed to publish new ads in the Amsterdam News offering refunds to former patients. He apparently charged $500 for the first visit and $80 for subsequent visits. So y'all see how there's the possibility of him scamming people with these medical practices, right? There's a possibility there. We don't know for sure, but there's a possibility there. Overcharging for products and services that don't really have much merit. On April 2nd, police released the name of a suspect in the shooting of Nipsey Hussle. But many fans of the rapper have concluded that the reason for his murder could have been that some conspirators, the US government, pharmaceutical companies, are attempting to keep the HIV cure out of the public purview. Even actor and comedian Nick Cannon responded to Hussle's murder by suggesting on Instagram that he planned to finish a documentary on Sebi and posting several videos of Sebi in the hours following. It is important to note a few things. First, Sebi was playing on the desperation of a lot of desperate people in the United States, particularly at a moment when mortality was high, stigma was higher, and there were no effective therapies for HIV. If he really had a cure and had effectively cured people for nearly 30 years, why did he never produce a single documented case for others to replicate? Fair question. For people who believe that pharmaceutical interests had him and maybe Hussle taken out, why don't they have the cure now? That's a good question. I often hear from people that, quote unquote, keeping people on therapy is more lucrative than curing them. But in 2014, US taxpayer money helped bring about the first widely beneficial cures for hepatitis C, and Gilead Sciences The company to first bring this cure to market generated $50 billion in sales in the first 3 years. It sounds like there's a lot of money to be made in cures, and this is a fact that many activists and patients are mad as hell about. Secondly, ask yourself this question. If Sebi was so interested in the health and wellness of Black people globally, why didn't he make his supposed cure available more widely? The Body contributor Stephen Hicks put it best on Twitter. Millions of Black people have died from AIDS complications globally. If quote-unquote Dr. Sebi really had the cure, lived to be 83 years old, and saw millions of Black people die without attempting to give them said cure, he is no hero. That right there is pretty indicative. Hero, money, fame, scamming. What was the motive for not showing people how to replicate his cure? But what is ultimately the saddest in all of this is that there are real people living with HIV in this country who wake up every day and fight for their lives. They fight against stigma in their homes and communities. They fight against stigma in the media. They fight to be heard and seen by their doctors and other providers. They fight their elected officials. They fight their insurance companies. They even fight pharma companies for better access to affordable medications. And there are those of us who continue to work to support people living with HIV too, who know something about this epidemic. And yet it all takes is one quack to claim some quote-unquote holistic African cure to get far more credibility in the eyes of many than the vast majority of people who live with this every day. This planned documentary by Hussle and now Canon sounds like it won't be a full, true accounting, but full of more myths that delight and affirm some people's ideas about health and medicine. There is real racism in biomedical research, healthcare, and public health systems to deal with, and much of it is infuriating and costs an uncounted number of lives every day. And we need more Black people to work with us to transform systems, not believe in false prophets. So, biggest takeaway. Let's say he was acquitted or he was not guilty of any wrongdoing whatsoever. Why is the HIV cure still so repressed? The model, the ability to replicate it is still so repressed. We don't know why. You know what I'm saying? That in itself right there should give you reason to pause and think. And this is no shot to Dr. Sebi and his legacy per se, but basically, never ever blindly trust your doctor's opinion. You get a second, third, heck, even fourth opinion to ensure various reputable and credible people are basically advising you on the correct path to pursue. This doctor may say surgery. This doctor may recommend some type of prescription. This doctor may just say rest. Bring it all together and come to your own conclusion. Don't blindly follow anybody. We see doctors who are overweight, right? And they should be ideally they should be the epitome of health, right? You study all this, you know how the body works. You see overweight doctors all the time, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that they might be leading you astray. And this leads us to the final quote. It says, by Alvin Toffler. He says, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. But as always, if it doesn't feed you, don't water it, and too much of any good thing is good for nothing. How are you lot doing today? Say it with me. I am doing more, saying less, and keeping that same energy. No cap. But while you lot are here, watch my past video right here on how to edit YouTube reaction videos off of your iPhone with no editing software or computer. Or watch my other video right here on how scammers are moving into your apartment rent-free with bad credit or an eviction. Watch that video right here as well. Alright, flip the script. I'm out. Deuces.
Accompagne-moi, je suis dans ma gamme, je fais le boucan. N'essaye pas de m'emmerder, j'ai pas le temps, je fais mon boucan. Viens t'enjailler.